Thomas. Back in May, earlier this year, Dr. Thomas received his Hall of Fame plaque in a special ceremony from the BFA board president, McMurphy. This is the one that will go up on the wall here. Due to his declining health, Dr. Thomas was unable to be here for the induction today. With us, though, is Bob Walagunda. Dr. Thomas had asked Bob to travel here to Indianola to represent him today at today's ceremony, as these two men have been timeless friends. Bob had trained Dr. Thomas to fly in a hot air balloon, and in the early years, he flew from a soon-to-be balloon port called Dingle Dell. Dr. Thomas purchased his first balloon from Bob, and they flew together regularly. His son Clayton Jr. served as Bob's crew chief for several years, and Dr. Thomas participated in many of the balloon racing events and promotions that Bob organized and participated in. Aside from being balloon buddies, the two men also shared an adventuresome spirit in skydiving and aviation in general, including parachuting at the Jacques Estelle's Parachute Inc. Center in Orange, Massachusetts. And they are still close friends yet to this day. Like Jacques Andre Estelle, whose emphasis was on safety and parachuting, Dr. Thomas emphasized safety and ballooning, achieving many safety awards, including most recently, as Orm mentioned earlier, the Ed Yost Master Pilot Award presented by the BFA. He also was a recipient of the Massachusetts State Award from the Aero Club of New England, the Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award, and the Montgolfier Award. At this time, I'm really proud to be able to introduce you to Mr. Bob Walagunda.
It's a pleasure to be here today with everyone as we come together from a variety of backgrounds to share the common bond of ballooning. First, let us acknowledge and remember those from our community that have left us and pray for them and their families and their friends. A special tribute and congratulations to both Bill Murtorf and Dennis Floden. I work with Bill, and I'll always remember his excitement and enthusiasm when he first got into ballooning. It was contagious. And Denny Floden, Captain Fogg, a friend and fellow balloon distributor with whom I worked for many years. Today, we honor Dr. Clayton Thomas and his induction into the U.S. Ballooning Hall of Fame. We know of Dr. Thomas's background as a U.S. Navy flight surgeon who got into aerospace medicine because of his love of aviation. We know of his prowess in the balloon community, where safety was his hallmark, receiving numerous safety awards. What I'd like to share with you today is about Dr. Thomas, the man, someone I have known for almost 45 years. First on the list would be family values. I'd like to recognize Dr. Thomas's family, who could not be here today. They say that behind every great man there's a great woman, and that would be Peggy, Dr. Thomas's wife of 62 years. They have four children, all certified commercial balloon pilots. Son Robert owns Balloons Unlimited in Middleburg, Virginia, and he owns the airport in Newmarket, Virginia. Son Clayton is an investment banker in Denver, Colorado, and a professional worldwide sailplane competitor. Daughter Wendy is a nurse at the local high school and still manages the repair station at the Balloon School of Massachusetts. And daughter Gwen was a former executive vice president of Buena Vista Productions, a division of Disney, and an Emmy Award-winning producer of Martha Stewart and a senior producer of Dr. Phil. Second on the list would be attitude. They say that your attitude almost always determines your altitude in life. Dr. Thomas was always reaching for the stars, always positive, always encouraging, and always enthusiastic. Third would be sense of humor. And as we all can see, sense of humor is sort of a prerequisite for ballooning. There was always a smile always a joke. In one of our early Belmont Festival balloon races, Dr. Thomas landed in the Bronx, New York, with a myriad of police cars following him. When on the ground, they asked him why he was doing this, and his response was, "Beats cutting the lawn." Next would be dedication. From the safety-oriented curriculum of instruction and flight checks to one of his greatest accomplishments, the editing of Tabor's Cyclopedic Medical Dictionary. One of his greatest contributions because, he said, nurses would buy his book before they bought any other. Next on the list would be loyalty. As a patriot, from the time he served as a U.S. Navy flight surgeon with his support of the U.S. Marines, and as a flight surgeon of the sports medical teams, for which he participated at the Mexico City and Munich Olympic Games. He was the balloon meister for the opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympics in Lake Placid in 1980. And lastly would be courage. A defining moment in his life when an Air France flight he and Peggy were on was hijacked. And he, in 1983, and he was forced down, the plane was forced down in Tehran. While kneeling down on the runway for 45 minutes on the hot tarmac with a gun to his head, he knew he had to keep calm. There was nothing he could do about it. And he thought of his great family and the fact that he had a great life. Dr. Thomas's mom told him that the greatest influence in his life was the Methodist Church and the Boy Scouts. When asked about what he thought contributed to all of his blessings, he said, "It is the work of God." And so too, we are blessed to have Dr. Clayton Thomas, a prince of a man and a giant in the balloon community. Thank you.
To straighten the story out about how I met my wife Mary. It was in the early 80s here at the Nationals. Mary and her sister, another lady, were crewing for Bill. And I met Mary, and eventually she was chasing me, and she's been chasing me ever since. And Bill would always rib me about it. He said, "You stole my crew." So I thought, wow, you know, he's always getting at me like this. So finally, Mary and I spent a week with him down in San Miguel about a month before he passed. And I thought I'd straighten him out, you know. And he gave me that thing about, "You stole my crew." I said, "Phil, I married her." He says, "What does that have to do with it? You stole my crew."
When I was young, I would obviously have a lot of stories I could tell about Bob Olagana and floating, but I just have one little remembrance of Dr. Clayton Thomas, and I bet a few others can remember it too. But it'd be here at the Nationals, where a lot of us grew up flying balloons, you know, and cut our teeth into anything that resembled a balloon race. This was it. This was the biggest event in the country, in the world. But Clayton would be here. And Clayton was an interesting character too. Completely different than Murtaugh, but still an interesting person. But Clayton would be wearing, when he flew, this fighter helmet. Big fighter helmet with the big goggles that came down over front. There'd be Clayton and his balloon taking off in it. And the second remembrance I have of Clayton is when he tried to do a splash and dash here at Indianola. You were just talking about it, right? And it made the ballooning magazine, right? And it was Clayton way up to his burner. He really went in. Go ahead, Danny. You want to? Yeah. Oh. There we go.
Bob and I were talking about this last night, about how Bruce Comstock and I were in the basket as the hair balloon. Now that's interesting in and of itself. We'll move on as we flew out. And he'd fly for a while, and then I'd fly for a while, and then we'd fight about who was going to fly next. But we did no problems. We just went and had a great time. And of course, he'd try and show off, and then I'd try and show off. I know that's hard to believe, but we would just do everything. We were bouncing all through the sky, and finally we recognized that, you know, we really should land because we got all these pilots trying to follow us. And so we saw a little lake down there and a green spot on the other side of the lake, and we're way up there. We said, hell, we're national champions, we can make that. Yeah, we dive bombed in, and we did. We leveled off and had a beautiful landing. Rather proud of each other. Turned around and watched the other competitors try and get there. Dr. Thomas. he comes down, but he doesn't level out. And he literally went up to the skirt in his descent into the water. Now, if you can just visualize with me for a moment, the last image we see is Dr. Thomas disappeared beneath the surface of the water. The next image we see, as the balloon rebounds, Dr. Thomas coming out of the water dripping wet. I do not know if he will speak to me yet to this day. I blamed it on Bruce.
Okay. Becky's got some closing remarks and some special gifts for. Go on. Come on, Al. You can come on. Never known you really to be speechless. Otherwise, you're going to owe somebody a buck like at the meeting.
Thank you. Well, I knew Bill for about 25 years, and he gave me my check right, by the way, and he did exactly what he did with everybody. As soon as he got out of the basket, he'd been over to kiss the earth. He did it with everybody. And I thought, you know, oh boy, he's got me. The first time I came to the Nationals, Bill was flying, and I saw him and decided, we just gotten in, so I said, oh, we'll go help him land. So I went to help him, and we packed up, and he said, come here, I want you to meet some people. So he brought me over to see some friends, and he said, this is Al Muir from Houston. And they said, is this the Al Muir from the newsletter? And I found out how widespread that newsletter was. That newsletter went all over the balloon community. Now, some people who are not familiar with Bill and his sense of humor got offended when their names appeared in these stories that were just wild stories. I mean, and they went on. They were like serial stories. You'd see them in one newsletter, then you'd see them again. But it was, I mean, and that's, by the way, the old saying about the pen mightier than the sword was true in Bill's case. Because he would really get after you, but he never picked on somebody who didn't think he'd take it. So we had a lot of fun. We traveled together several times at events, and I'll tell you, the one that really kind of stands out, when we went to Alamosa. Now, Alamosa is my hometown. It gets cold there in November. I tried to tell Bill, pack some warm clothes. What did he wear? His jeans and his tennis shoes, and a little old light shirt. And the first morning, it was below freezing. And there's Bill trying to inflate, and he's walking around the campus. And Bill, I felt sorry for him. I finally gave him a jacket. Well, we went to eat at one of the places I ate at as a kid in high school. And as we were finishing breakfast, I looked over at this little girl, and I saw her get up. As soon as Bill stood up, and she walked over, she grabbed Bill by the pant leg, like this little blonde token. She said, looked up at him and says, Santa Claus, is my bicycle ready? Bill looks down at her and he says, Yes, young lady, it is. It's a little red bicycle. And I look at her parents, and her parents go, it's blue. I can't tell you how many times that happened when I was traveling. How many of you remember Bill's beard? You remember when it was long? Okay, down at the bottom of it, there was kind of a little yellow stripe. Do you know where that came from? I was inflating next to him one time, and he flew a Picard. Everybody knows Picard's got an open burner plate, so when the burner comes back, it backfires, right? So I'm flying, I'm inflating, and all of a sudden I hear this noise. And I look over at Bill, and he's putting the fire out. His beard caught fire at the bottom, and about 2 or 3 inches was burned off. How many times you see that, Carl? David Schaefer wore a Nomex scarf to keep his beard from doing that. Right. Bill said, no, we're going to wear scarves. I'll tell you, we had so much fun. We flew off together more than once. 2 of us just flying 2 balloons. We'd land, we'd pack up, help each other pack, and then we'd flip a coin and see who was going to hitchhike back to get the truck. I lost that. I don't know. He had a 2-headed coin. I knew that. When I got back, I'd be looking for Bill. Where is he? He said somebody had taken, pity on this poor old man and taking him in and fed him breakfast. By the time I got back, he'd already eaten breakfast. We had to pack up and go home from there, and I had to find someplace to eat. That's the one thing we did a lot of. I'll bet we ate lunch together probably 2 or 3 times a week the last days he was in Houston. And then when we went down to Mexico, after he died, scattered his ashes. That ceremony was wonderful. Bill would have enjoyed it because we sat around after we did that, landed, and told Bill stories. And it was wonderful. I wish we'd have recorded it. But it was a very special time. And he loved San Miguel de Allende. And just like everywhere he went, he was the Pied Piper. He gathered a group around him that loved ballooning, and he introduced them to the sport, and then after that it spread. So the one thing you say about Bill, he loved what he did. And great integrity, great friend, and I miss him a lot.
Yeah.
Al, you're not finished yet. You're not.
What do you want him to say?
Is it true that in the morning he would inflate his balloon and fly out to sea, and then when the wind shifted, it brought him back to land?
I never saw him do that because we were 60 miles from the coast.
No, this was when he was shingling all those beautiful homes in Corpus Christi.
I'll tell you who would know
Added
that.
one new one. And Dennis, my old cohort over here, I'm not good computer-wise. I come up with the ideas, he has to make them happen. And so he has designed this nifty little calendar, and it sits on your desk or wherever else, or your RV, or your... It doesn't have any embroidery, I'm sorry. But we made a personal 2014 calendar for each Hall of Fame person. You're the only person who has one. So in case Kellogg's gets us in trouble with that, it's only yours. All right? And you can look at they're all personal calendars.
Thank you.
And then this one we made for Dr. Thomas. And this one is for Bill. So, and they are all personal ones, and they're pretty nifty. And then, I'm sure if you get the ballooning magazine, you're familiar with Billy Nova, or Bill Novisky, and his brain never shuts off. And he has been doing caricatures for each one of the Hall of Famers. And this one, it says, this is for Mr. Floden, and he has, it's also back there if you can't see it, and it has this advertising all over it. It says, never go aloft without a porta potty. Buick, Tony says, all kinds of things. He said, and where do you think NASCAR got the idea?
Thank you.
And this is for Dr. Thomas, and he was called the Daredevil Doctor of Dingley Dell. Kind of rhymes there. And so here's a picture of him coming out of a balloon in, I don't know if it's a rocking chair, and an umbrella, and he said, "They don't call me the Daredevil Doctor of Dingley Dell for nothing." And then one of the first stories I heard about Bill was, well, he started out as a surfer. Can't you just envision that? And everything else. Well, one of the things, it was kind of a dare. They said, no, you can't fly, and like, I think it was like 5 miles an hour. And he said, well, I can. And he'd never flown before. And so here they have him. Here's the balloon, the trade winds, and he's pulling, looks like surfers or water skiers. And he said, aha, and they said it couldn't be done. So he showed them. Now, I think we've had a really good time. I need some more.